Hey guys, good morning. It's about 4 in the morning here, and I figured what better way to start off a morning than to wake up and talk about something super dark and controversial. By the way, if you have any trigger warnings around things that involve addiction or kind of graphic addiction type stories, you may not want to watch this video because I'm going to go into some of the stories from my past about my own personal addictions and I'm going to talk about some of my personal advice for getting over addiction, how I managed to quit opiates as well as every other chemical under the sun, pretty much. And hopefully, if I can even help one person out there, 1% in their journey to healing and getting better, then I will be very happy as this YouTuber sitting in my room at 4 in the morning on the West Coast. So, without further ado, here's kind of the shocker information that I thought I would share on this video, which I haven't really told anyone, maybe a couple close friends, but I don't know. I honestly do not know how many times I've woken up to paramedics in my life, okay, due to overdosing on. Typically, it's going to be opiates, because opiates are the thing that tend to knock you out very easily. They're very extremely dangerous. If you guys are, I mean, I'm sure you know this. If you don't know this, know it now. Opiates are super deadly. Do not do them. Even if even if prescribed by your doctor, can make sure you're using them for a good reason. Is what I would say. Anyways, yeah, I honestly don't know how many times. If I had to, gun to my head, make a guesstimate, the amount of times I've woken up to professional paramedics due to an overdose would be somewhere around 10 times, maybe in the teens, Now, I'm not saying this for war stories. War stories is a term they use, and you'll hear people say, oh, don't tell war stories in like AA or NA or different addiction groups. They'll warn people not to tell war stories because people can have a tendency to start telling stories about their addiction, and then people will kind of compare each other's war stories, and they'll start to talk about it in a way like they kind of miss it, or like they will sensationalize their war stories and try to make addiction sound cool when it really isn't. So it's a kind of a slippery slope, but it can be healthy to. There is a way to talk about your experiences in a way that's not doing that, and that's just informational and say this is what happened. um I'm more so saying this just so because to let you know the truth. I think that we shall be armed with the truth. Maybe it'll scare you away from doing things like this if you were for some reason on the fence to trying to decide, oh, I wonder if I should do like hard substances. Well, the answer is no. Okay. Um so yeah, I mean that's a pretty crazy factoid about me that I know that lots of addicts can say that too, but not the average person, right? If I were to tell the average person that, hey, I don't know how many times I've woken up to paramedics, they would look at you like you're crazy. Like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't stop after the first time, after the third time, after the fifth time, after the seventh time you woke up to paramedics from, you know, by the way, most of these times I was unconscious for more than 8 minutes, not breathing for many of those minutes. Okay. Like clinically dead if they didn't resuscitate me with either Narcan or different things like that. Okay. I know this is dark, but it's okay. I'm okay now today, by the way. I've been clean from all that for many, many years. And I do want to talk a little bit about some of my pointers for how I got over it to help you. But first, yeah, let me just kind of finish this thought. So maybe in the teens, I honestly never kept track of how many times because part of it was just me ignoring it, because if I really sat and thought about it, I'd have to be basically admitting to myself that I was crazy for continuing to use. Um, and it just made it more real for me to actually like, keep track and really think about it. Instead, I would kind of half swear to myself that I would never do that stuff again, and then it would always kind of come back up. Okay, this is, I mean, it's insanity. This addiction stuff is crazy. You can be, a genius, have a genius IQ. I'm not saying I do, but addiction will. It doesn't matter how smart you are. Addiction will use your wit to trick yourself into using again. It's very, very dastardly. Okay. For people that are religious out there, a lot of people relate it to the devil. It's almost like the devil has gotten a hold of you. It's like you're being possessed by a demonic spirit who their prime motive is to use or drink or what have you, right? Very, very, I mean, it's about as scary as you can get because it can literally unalive you. It can literally end your life. It's very scary. So you got to be careful, please, out there. Consider stopping if you are in the trenches and you're considering. Oh, by the way, everything isn't that bad at first, okay, right? Like when you're first getting into an addiction, no one really knows until it's too late how addictive of a personality they have. Maybe you have some semblance of an idea from your parents, right? Like, oh, my mother, or both my mother and my father had addictive personalities, so maybe I should watch out for it. But even if no one in your family has that trait, you can still have it, of course. And, curiosity really killed the cat for me because for me, I just started off very recreational. I was very curious. I was young and invincible, 18, when I started doing intravenous like opiates. Okay, that's pretty intense. I know a lot of people start when they're like 12 or, so that's what I'm saying. What I was saying earlier, it's like everyone's story is different. You can't really compare in a way that one is more hardcore than the other or worse than the other. Every story is unique to ourselves. Every story is, everyone's pain is biggest to themselves. You know what I mean? You can't really, it's not, there's no use in comparing stories and saying, oh, well, I went through this many more like drugs when I was younger, or I had way worse of a childhood when I was younger. So, how can you have, who are you to say you're so messed up? And it doesn't work that way. I know I kind of talk gibberish there, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So, yes, so let me finish here. So maybe in the teens, I've woken up to paramedics. And then the amount of times, that's just to professionals, the amount of times that I have woken up to, friends who resuscitated me, just friends, could be close to 50 times, okay, over all the years, over like the 20 years that I was in the trenches doing this stuff. But the reason I'm saying that is just to kind of give you a visualization of how crazy you can be and how much you can trick yourself into saying, oh, just one more time, or just how chemically addictive these substances really are. I would say that otherwise, I didn't really take very many risks. I'm afraid of like jumping out of planes. I'm not a gambling person, but when it came to substances, I really had a problem. Now to get to maybe a little bit of the good part here, how I got out of this world was slowly. Everyone's going to be different. My little brother, he stopped, his story was different. He was way worse than myself. And then, well, I shouldn't talk about him. I'm going to cut that part out. I don't want to talk about someone else's story. But for me, it took a long time. It was like a very gradual, sloping down, slowly stopping. Some people stop immediately, right? Everyone's going to be a little different. So if you are the kind of person who it's just taking a little bit more time, I think what's the statistic? The average person relapses many, many times before they successfully quit anything, whether it's cigarettes or opiates or amphetamines. Okay. So you don't want to give up. Let me just drink some water here real quick. Um, but it's definitely achievable, and you have to look at it as if, you know, you're fighting for your life, because you literally are. And don't fool yourself. So one of the tips that really helped me, and I know that everyone's different again, but for me, tip number one would be exercise. Um, Exercise really helped me in so many situations. Even if it was just simply going out and going for a little jog or even a walk, if that's all I can muster. Getting, your body pumping, especially after weeks of doing these substances. A lot of times, myself anyway, I would just be indoors, mostly sitting down, playing video games, or like just doing nothing really, just in that cycle. So your body slowly deteriorates, and the lack of sleep and everything. But yeah, exercise is one of the best ways to kind of help reset my mind. And I highly recommend that for you. Even again, if it's just a couple walks around the block, get out in the sun. That can be really huge, helps flush all those chemicals out. And, and this is kind of the crazier, hard thing to do. But if you are in the detox part of your life, like you're actively quitting and your body is flushing out all of those crazy chemicals, you're going to be feeling horrible, and it's going to be the last thing you want to do, okay, is to go get some exercise. But I guarantee you, if you can force yourself to do it, just kind of try to take on the mentality of like a Navy SEAL or something. Like, I'm just doing this. It's going to be painful, but do it anyway. And I mean, of course, unless your doctor tells you not to, do not, don't risk hurting yourself. But if you can safely get out and go for a run and just do it, or lift some weights, whatever it is, what you like to do, it will really help just kind of re-register those, the endorphins in your mind, all the neurotransmitters, whatever the science you want to talk about. And it can make you feel much, much better and help you get over the hump. And once you kind of see the light in the tunnel, once you start to feel good again, because you're going to be feeling horrible, right? But once you start to get those first shreds of, oh, this is what it feels like to be normal again. Oh, this is what is this? Oh, that's happiness. This is what that feels like, right? Once you just get the first shreds of that, you will remember, oh, okay, that's it. And then you at least have that to latch onto, and you want more of it and more of it. And that really helps you to have just a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel to get to, right? I hope that makes sense. Now, my goal number 2 of 3 is going to be having goals, right? And this one can be really tough, because if you were like me and you get down to your rock bottom, it's going to be hard to have set goals for yourself, because you're just going to be feeling so miserable. You're probably going to be out of money, out of resources. Maybe you've burned a lot of bridges in your life, as far as relationships. Maybe your ex left you because of your usage, like in my case, many times. And you've lost jobs, so it's very, very hard to set goals, because you feel like, how could I possibly achieve anything in this state, right? That's the kind of thinking you get. But at the same time, you just have to realize that, well, the further down that hole that you've dug yourself, in a way, it's actually kind of easier to set these goals, because you are basically starting from nothing. And you can set easy, simple goals. Well, I want to get my car again. I want to get a car again. I want to get my license again. I want to get a job. I want to walk a block today. I want to use half as much. Set a tapering plan for yourself. The sky is the limit on these goals. Or maybe you want to set loftier ones. So you could say, like, in a year, I want to be making this amount of money, or I want to work on this in my relationship with this person. Okay. The sky's the limit. You know what you need. Um, you know what you need. Brainstorm with yourself and figure out what's best for you. And so that's number 2. And number 3 is, at the risk of sounding a little bit cliche and kind of Hallmark cardy, a little cheesy, it is hope. Okay. Hope is so important. You have to, I mean, none of this is going to be possible if you don't believe, at least some part of you has to believe that it's achievable, that you can get over this hump, that you can get out of Mordor. That's a Lord of the Rings reference. You can get out of hell, basically. You have to at least know that it's somewhat possible in your mind, because if you have completely convinced yourself that you cannot get out of it, then it's going to be so hard for you. And that's the problem. The longer you are in this really desolate state, the longer you spend being addicted and draining your bank account and burning bridges, the deeper the hole you dig, right? And so the deeper you are down in the hole, the harder it is to climb out. And so I totally get that, you guys, but there's no better day than today. And even if you are much older than me, even if you're not 18 years old, you just don't give up. Start today. You have a lot to look forward to. We only have one life here on this planet, and you don't want to be spending it, wasting it, just regretting your days in addiction. Okay. If you are still listening to this video, then you are someone who has already experienced any benefits that could have come from these substances or these addictions. Okay. All the fun stuff that comes in the very beginning, before you realize that you're going to have a problem, before you realize that, oh, I have addictive tendencies. Oh, I'm losing all my money. Sometimes in the very beginning, it might be fun, but if you're still listening to this video at this point, then you are someone who has already experienced all that, and you need to move away from that. Okay. So stop. I mean, there's just no point. Okay. There's just no point. It's just irrational to keep doing that. And I want for you to know that it is possible to stop. I thought that it would be impossible. I thought I would never be able to. And it took a long time and many, many tries, but it definitely did happen. Now, I may not be living in a mansion. I may not have a Fortune 500 job, but I'm telling you, having next to nothing and not being in those trenches is still 1 million times better than being back there, because it's just the chemistry in your mind is reset back to healthy, and people are able to be very happy and have gratitude. My last tip would be, do not compare yourself to other people. And what I'm saying is, don't get yourself down that maybe you don't have 2 cars, the type of family. You're not in life. Where am I trying to say? You don't have some of the things that maybe some of your friends might at their point in life. Some things that you want. Okay. You can get there eventually. You're just not there today. I mean, I know a lot of people have this problem. I personally had to get over this because I would really get down on myself. Well, I didn't get this accomplishment, or this, I don't have this job. I'm not making this much money. It's always going to be different for every person. It's going to be different for men and women probably, but you know what I mean? Comparison is the killer of happiness, is a very famous quote. It's something like that, but you know what I mean? So don't compare yourself. Just work on yourself each day. And basically, instead of competing with other people, just compete with yourself. If you're even just a couple steps ahead tomorrow than from where you were the day before, then you are doing it correctly. Okay. And if you just take a couple baby steps every day, in a month, you're going to be in a much better place. And then 2 months, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't actually really take that long to make huge changes in your mind's chemistry and for you to start feeling better. Okay. We're talking, you know, usually just a couple weeks to make the biggest difference. And then after a month of not putting these chemicals in your body, like, you're going to be doing very, very well. So those are my tips for now. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, honestly, yeah, I honestly don't know how many times I have been unconscious for 10, 15 minutes, you know, friends swearing up and down they thought they were going to lose me. And then I would keep waking up. Luckily, it wasn't the same for many of my friends. Unfortunately, many people I know, you know, and I don't want it to be you. Obviously, you don't either. And if you know someone else maybe in your life that maybe it's not you who is going through these types of things, but you want to help other people, then maybe you could just be there for them and pass this on for them too. So remember, exercise, have goals, even if they're small, have any hope you can. And comparison, don't compare yourself to others as far as your progress. Just do your own thing. I'm going to stop it there, but I'm going to have some more crazy stories from my past. I know this video was a little dark. My other ones won't be this dark, I promise. Or maybe they will. We'll see. So I'm going to cut it off there. Hope you guys have a great day and stay safe out there.